get to the rink because there's way too much traffic.
A visiting NHL team faces off against Toronto traffic.
Tonight, vehicles at a standstill, gridlock forcing players to get out and walk. Good evening. It's just the latest high-profile complaint over congestion.
It's something residents deal with on a daily basis, shared on social media. A hit to our city's reputation, reigniting calls to get things moving. CTV's Natalie Johnson is working on the story tonight and joins us with the details. Welcome to Toronto.
Yeah, exactly, Michelle. Toronto traffic is always the talk of the town, but once again, it is stealing the spotlight on the international stage. The Premier calling this incident embarrassing. The Mayor apologizing to the hockey team.
Walking pregame to get to the rink because there's way too much traffic.
5:15 p.m. on Sunday in Toronto, and these NHLers from Utah realize getting down to their game is faster on foot.
So it's just pretty much the whole team walking the street.
Their team bus caught in congestion, the players telling the tale of Toronto traffic on Instagram.
It was embarrassing that, the Utah Hockey Club has to get out of the bus and start walking to the hockey arena. It's just unacceptable.
But it was far from the first time that this happened. High-profile visitors getting gridlocked and letting the whole world know.
It took us 30 minutes to go a block.
What's up with the traffic in Toronto?
Taylor Swift made it through with the help of this motorcade.
Traffic's too bad in Toronto, so we're walking to the venue.
But other celebs, like this former One Direction singer, not so lucky. Toronto's mayor blaming the holdup for the hockey team that was formerly the Phoenix Coyotes.
Hi, how are you back there?
On a different celebrity in town.
The Coyotes met up with Santa Claus. And the Coyote lost because the Santa Claus parade was just finishing. All the big floats and the people flooding out from the Santa Claus parade was jamming that whole area.
Let's keep in mind, we have big events in the big city every single weekend. And I think Torontonians expect us to get the basic things right. That is about the facilitation of movement for goods and people across Toronto. And it doesn't really matter what day it is.
Some Torontonians say the city's image stands to suffer.
It's not too good of a look, I guess.
It probably hurts their reputation.
For sure it does. Even residents of the city don't like getting around.
Santa didn't conspire together with the Leafs. I'm glad that the Maple Leafs won. But apologies to the Coyotes.
By 15.
Pro athletes who have taken their team bus through their fair share of big cities, calling it a first.
Never saw that before.
Toronto once again making headlines beyond hockey for all the wrong reasons. The Premier today using this incident as an opportunity to tout his plan to get traffic moving. That includes tearing out the bike lanes on Bloor, University and Yonge. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back to you.
Thank you, Natalie. And the Ford government's controversial bike lane bill passed through the legislature this afternoon.
The ayes being 66 and the nays being 27. I declare the motion carried.
The bill, which passed by a vote of 66 to 27, will prohibit the installation of new bike lanes on arterial roads and prompt reviews of some existing ones. The province has announced it will force the removal of some bike lanes recently installed on University Avenue, Yonge Street and Bloor Street. Critics of the bill say it tramples local democracies and makes roads less safe for cyclists.
Also tonight, delivery on hold. Canada Post workers rally amid ongoing negotiations as the mail continues to pile up a month before Christmas. The latest on the strike.
There is another significant development in the investigation into the death of a baby at a Midtown apartment.
Charges against the infant's mother have been upgraded. She's now accused of murder. We want to warn you, some of the details in this story are disturbing. CTV's Janice Golding's been following this story for us and joins us with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. A Toronto mother was in bail court this morning to face charges of second-degree murder in the death of her infant son. Now, a publication ban prevents us from disclosing exactly what we learned in court this morning. We can say that it did take place via a phone call. Meanwhile, CTV News has gathered new information about the accused that we'll share with you now. There is a growing memorial outside this Toronto community housing complex at Roselawn and Marley.
Most people are devastated. Most people are.
Residents like Teresa saying they've lost sleep over the death of a 4-month-old infant whom police allege was murdered by his own mother.
And just disgusted. Like, I spent the day throwing up and crying because that's a poor, helpless baby. Leave it in the hospital if you can't do for it.
While police will only say the baby died of undisclosed injuries, last week we showed you these images of an 8th-floor garbage chute being guarded by police. Also being monitored, a compactor room on the main floor of the building. The child's mother was originally charged with failure to provide the necessaries of life. Following a weekend autopsy, however, those charges were upgraded to second-degree murder.
But these are the things that come out in an autopsy. Broken bones, things of that nature that were never tended to, that were never seen by a medical practitioner. There could be starvation involved. There are all kinds of different scenarios that might take place. But the autopsy sort of gave the police, certainly gave the homicide squad reasonable grounds to believe that second-degree murder was the appropriate charge as it relates to the cause and the mechanism of death.
CTV News has now learned beyond the charges she faces in Toronto, 30-year-old Caressa Denisha Edwards is on charge for assault with a weapon, and aggravated assault with Peel Regional Police, charges dating back to 2021. Meanwhile, when asked about this case, the Children's Aid Society would only say the Child, Youth and Family Services Act prevents child welfare agencies from disclosing personal information, including information which would indicate whether or not we are working with or have worked with a child, youth or adult. The Homicide and Missing Persons Unit has taken over the investigation. This is considered the city's 79th homicide of the year. Edwards will be back in bail court on Wednesday. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Developing news from Newmarket tonight. At least 4 people have been injured in a multi-vehicle crash. This happened shortly before 3:30 this afternoon near Davis Drive and Warden Avenue. Police say 4 vehicles were involved, including a dump truck. 2 people were taken to hospital with serious injuries, while 2 other people suffered minor injuries.
Still ahead, tempers flare at Queen's Park amid renewed calls to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic. The heated debate that saw a couple of MPPs forced to leave the chamber.
A live look outside on this Monday night. We are anticipating rain and gusty winds, but not cold enough for flurries yet. Let's bring in Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. We did see some frost on the grass and on the ground this morning.
We're into that time of year, Michelle, where we are watching for that transition to take place very quickly as temperatures drop throughout the week. So the frost is just the beginning. We're watching for flurries a little later on this week. Not needing the shovel anytime soon, but still it is going to be quite the change. We're watching for scattered showers to roll in as we head through this early part of our evening, and it continues heavy at times overnight. Temperature-wise, it is still mild, all things considered, even with the gusty easterly wind today. Tonight, they become westerly, they get a little lighter, and then things pick up into the day tomorrow. Right now, through the islands, through Pearson, about 6 and 5 degrees apiece. The rain has already started through Pearson, and tonight, it is windy, and it is going to be soggy. Coming up, I'll have your full forecast, and we continue to build a mountain of toys. CTV's Andrea Case will have more on our Toy Mountain campaign and the school she visited, St. Ambrose Catholic School in Etobicoke, a little later on in the show. But right now, it's back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
It's exactly 1 month until Christmas, and Canada Post vehicles are still sitting idle.
There is no end in sight to a strike that began on November 15th, and it's heightening fears that holiday gifts and greetings won't arrive in time. CTV's Beth McTennell joins us live with the latest on the situation. Beth.
Michelle, this is the 11th day of the nationwide strike. The local president of the union here in Scarborough told me they're no closer to a deal than they were over the weekend, but are hopeful. Meanwhile, Canada Post says over the weekend progress was limited. With 1 month until Christmas, shopping for presents at Scarborough Town Centre is on. But the postal workers' strike means Canadians have fewer options to send parcels.
I want to send some gifts to my great-grandfather in Taiwan, and I know I won't be able to do it.
Sherry Hu and Brian Sharp normally send packages to Asia and Europe with Canada Post.
Please just go back to work.
If they're going to have a strike right now, they'll be more likely to be noticed that they're actually on strike. More of an inconvenience people actually think and be aware of.
At a rally down the road, postal workers voiced solidarity for a fair deal with the Crown Corporation. From better working conditions to ensuring protections for new employees and questioning bonuses, despite Canada Post saying it's lost more than $300 million in revenue in the third quarter alone.
Never mind what Canada Post is telling you about all these great losses. If they were serious about it, they would never have pushed the union to the extent that we had to strike.
Canada Post says its books are checked by the Auditor General, and the shutdown now, during Black Friday week, is its busiest week.
It's doing tremendous damage. First, in terms of numbers, since the strike began, we have lost about 10 million parcels. Those are parcels that would have come to Canada Post for delivery, but have gone to the competition.
Shoppers, too, are frustrated with the timing.
I don't think it was a very smart time to do it right at Christmas. I understand that's probably the most impact, and to try to force them to come to an agreement.
That not really matter this time. Lots of private UPS, Amazon is most popular, you know.
People worrying a lot. This, I think government has to come down.
Unfortunately, I mean, a lot of people are doing like emails or gift cards by emails and everything, right? So I feel bad for the Canada Post workers because they're kind of being put back.
Skipping Canada Post as the strike carries on. One of the concerns I heard from the union today is they believe Canada Post is trying to make as cheap a workforce as possible to compete with places like Amazon, which they say would require drastic change and a wage cut. Reporting live in Scarborough, I'm Beth Magdalene. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. To other labor unrest, there could be a work stoppage at Canadian National Railway by New Year's Day. 3,600 workers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike mandate. That includes mechanics, crane operators, electricians, administrators, and customer support staff. The employees say they want improved job security, compensation, and working conditions. Negotiations are resuming and will continue through December 8th.
Meanwhile, both sides in the labor dispute at Montreal's port have agreed to enter into mediation. The union, representing about 1,200 longshore workers, says the process will last for 90 days, followed by binding arbitration. On November 14th, the Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered the restart of operations at the port and arbitration to reach a new deal. It's the largest port in eastern Canada.
We turn to a heated debate at Queen's Park today.
It came as opposition parties demanded the province recognize intimate partner violence as an epidemic. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with all the details. Siobhan.
There's certainly a lot of emotion caught up in this debate, so much so that we actually saw 2 MPPs kicked out of the House. The NDP says it doesn't understand why Ontario won't do what 6 other provinces and dozens of municipalities already have. Tempers flaring during a debate about intimate partner violence.
Mr. Calandra, you'll leave the chamber. Ms. Andrews, you're going to leave the chamber for the day.
On the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, the NDP pushing the government to declare the problem an epidemic.
Why do Conservatives continue to wear the purple scarves while breaking the promise to survivors?
The recommendation to call intimate partner violence an epidemic made in a coroner's inquest in 2022. That followed the murders of 3 women in Renfrew County, killed by the same ex with a history of violence.
No more studies, no more committees. Declare it an epidemic and do the right thing today.
Advocates insist a declaration would push out more support and streamline court proceedings.
Violence against women and girls is a horrific crime.
One the government says it has no tolerance for.
Which is why we supported the bill that was put forward by the opposition, so that we can continue to review, hear from experts.
A process the opposition says has stalled in its second phase.
All ministries are reporting to committee and talking about the areas that we are investing in the government of Ontario to support women.
With testimony from survivors to come. But critics say the government has thousands of pages of what survivors and support workers say needs to be done.
No matter what this government pats themselves on the backs for during their dog and pony show IPV Phase 2 committee hearings, if the woman or child is dead, Speaker, if they are dead, there is no tomorrow.
At an unrelated event, the Premier condemned violence against women.
I have 4 daughters, and anyone ever touch my daughters, it'd be the worst day of their lives, and that's for anyone out there. It's unacceptable.
But made no new commitment to declare an epidemic. One of the problems the NDP has flagged is hundreds of women trying to escape abuse being turned away from places like shelters because there just isn't room. With the cost of housing and living so high, it can be hard for those women to afford to find someplace safe. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Legal arguments began today in the sexual assault case of 5 members of Canada's 2018 World Junior Hockey team. Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod, and Alex Formenton were in court. Carter Hart and Cal Foote were represented by their lawyers. All 5 players are expected to plead not guilty. Several weeks have been set aside for legal arguments in the case. A jury trial is scheduled to begin on April 22nd.
Canada continues to receive criticism for not meeting NATO defense spending requirements in a timely manner.
Today, business leaders added their voices demanding the federal government meet the target much faster. CTV's Judy Trin has the latest.
Anti-NATO protests had no impact on the federal government's goal of spending 2% of its GDP on the military by 2032.
We are on a clear path to reach 2% in the coming years.
But it's not fast enough for business leaders, with Donald Trump coming into office in less than 2 months and threatening to impose tariffs. There's concerns delays will impact future trade negotiations.
There are serious implications if all signals from the United States and others is you got to shape up or we will ship you out.
The Business Council of Canada says the defense sector should be transformed into the country's economic backbone. It calls on the government to hit the NATO target by spending $75 billion annually by 2030. Defense officials have only budgeted $58 billion, a gap of more than $17 billion in that same time frame.
Everything we can do to accelerate those timelines, everything we can do to deliver faster actually saves Canadian taxpayer dollars too, because the longer things take, the more expensive they tend to get.
The Council's plan also calls for a review of all federal priorities to find money to shift to defense, a move that could result in job losses in other departments.
Governments are elected to make difficult choices. Governments have chosen to really burst the size of our public service, disproportionate to the levels of hires that have been having in the private sector.
The defense minister has public opinion on his side. Recent polling shows 2 out of 3 Canadians support increasing military spending to meet NATO requirements. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Speaker of Ukraine's parliament was also in Montreal on the final day of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly.
Thank you for Canadian people, for Canadian government, for Parliament, for all support for Ukraine in those most dangerous period during our modern history. It's very important that during the whole time that Canada always is a leader of supporting of Ukraine. Thank you for this.
The Canadian government has committed $4.5 billion in lethal and non-lethal military assistance and equipment to Ukraine since 2022. In February, the 2 countries signed an agreement on security cooperation, formalizing Canada's long-term support.
In the Middle East, there are indications of movement towards a possible ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. For now, the fighting continues, leaving a trail of destruction amid signs of a diplomatic breakthrough. A senior Israeli official has told Reuters there will be a cabinet meeting tomorrow to approve the text of a ceasefire deal. The U.S. says it believes an agreement is close, but cautions there are still steps that need to be taken. Israel's ambassador to the UN insists his country would maintain an ability to strike southern Lebanon. The Lebanese government has previously objected to that.
An end to the fighting in Lebanon and Gaza is a major focus at a gathering of G7 foreign ministers in Italy. Canada's Melanie Joly is among those meeting near Rome. They expressed cautious optimism about possible progress on a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. For the first time, the ministers were joined by their counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, and the Secretary General of the Arab League. The so-called quintet has been working with the U.S. to finalize a day-after plan for Gaza.
In the U.S., the federal case accusing Donald Trump of attempting to overturn his 2020 election defeat has been dismissed. A judge delivered the ruling today after prosecutors moved to drop the case. Long-standing Justice Department policy says sitting presidents cannot face criminal prosecution, and the special counsel has now acknowledged Trump's return to the White House will preclude attempts to prosecute him. A spokesperson for the president-elect says the decision is a major victory for the rule of law. Prosecutors are also moving to drop the case against him related to retaining classified documents.
At the White House, Joe Biden has pardoned 2 grateful gobblers in an annual Thanksgiving tradition.
Today, Peach and Blossom will join the free birds of the United States of America.
The U.S. president pardoned 2 turkeys named for the official flower of his home state of Delaware. Peach and Blossom came from a farm in southern Minnesota and will return to the state to live out their days at an agriculture center.
Coming up, honoring the inaugural 6, a tribute to the women of the PWHL who blazed a trail for future generations. Meet the artist who crafted a sculpture with sticks from the league's first season.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, are you in the market for a used car? If you are, be careful you don't get scammed. A new mother just bought a used van, and the odometer was rolled back almost 100,000 kilometers. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
And we are trending towards a much more seasonal point as we head throughout the rest of this week, and we are going to see some active weather, first starting as rain and then changing over to the potential of some flurries. So we are in that realm of that winter weather. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and we're also going to touch on Twain Mountain. It's also the season for that. Lots coming up later on in the show, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
New and used vehicle prices have risen steadily over the past few years, which is why many people looking for a car are hoping to find a bargain.
The cost of a used vehicle will depend on the year, make, and model, but also how many kilometers are on the odometer. Pat Foran has our story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. Tools that can roll back odometers are easily found online, and unfortunately, changing one is not hard to do. If you're looking for a used car, you need to make sure the kilometers you see are accurate so you don't get scammed.
I panicked. I started crying. I got all sweaty.
Mackenzie Jordan of Oshawa recently had a baby, and with a growing family, she wanted a minivan. She found one for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and while the mileage was 196,000 kilometers, she thought it was a reasonable price.
Thought it was a great deal, $2,700, 6 passengers, kids all had their own seat. Didn't have to be all squeezed together.
Jordan bought the car, but she says not long after it started to have transmission issues. That's when she noticed an oil change sticker that listed a different mileage amount.
I was sitting in the car and I looked up, see the Mr. Loop sticker, and it said 288,000.
She checked the used vehicle information package more closely, and the odometer had been rolled back 92,000 kilometers. When she messaged the seller, he wouldn't respond.
I tried contacting him. I was blocked. My partner was blocked.
We find that many vehicles sold by curbsiders actually have odometer rollback issues.
OMVIC, which oversees vehicle sales in Ontario, says if you buy a used car with a rolled back odometer from a dealer, you have some protections. But in a private sale, you don't.
We do have a compensation fund, but that fund is only available to consumers who purchased a vehicle from an OMVIC registered dealer. Those protections do not exist in a private sale.
To avoid odometer rollback cars, purchase a used vehicle information package and a Carfax vehicle history report. Check the seller's ID to make sure they're the lawful owner of the car. Ask for service records and have the vehicle checked by your mechanic. Jordan now worries she could soon have to spend thousands in repairs on the car.
My lights are on, my transmission light's on.
Odometer fraud is illegal, and Jordan has filed a complaint with OMVIC. She says the seller continues to post other vehicles for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And up until about 20 years ago, most odometers were mechanical in nature, and they were actually harder to roll back. Now most are digital, and with the right tool, they can be turned back quite easily. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, the month of November is winding down. Of course, it is cool, but it's possible we could see some snow for the first time in a long time.
I know who's excited about it. Probably none of us, but I think a lot of kids out there, when they hear about flurries, when they even just saw the frost this morning, it's exciting. I mean, we are getting close to December.
It is, and I feel like we had a green Christmas last year, right? So I feel like for a lot of folks, they are hoping they can use those sleds that they got last year, maybe use those skis that they couldn't necessarily use to the full extent of the season. But the good news is we are looking at more wintry weather. Is it measurable snow? Probably not, but hey, it gets you into the seasonal spirit. Lots of sunshine though this morning. It didn't last a very long time, but hey, you know what? I'll take it. And all things considered, even with the windier conditions today, still very seasonal. We're holding on to a decent amount of warmth as we head throughout the day today, and it really won't change too much as we head in towards the evening. Now, we are looking at a gusty westerly wind as we kind of get past midnight and into the start of the day tomorrow. So it isn't necessarily going to feel that much different, but at least we're staying above that seasonal mark, at least for another day. Right now, we're sitting at 5 degrees here in the city, 10 through Windsor, just 0 now in Ottawa, but anywhere north of Sudbury, it's a little fresh. In towards this evening, still sitting at 5 degrees, so where we are right now, there really isn't too much of a change. We should be at -2, so yes, it is cool and it is damp out there and a little windy, but at least we're still sitting above seasonal. Everybody comfortably sitting above their seasonal averages. Into the day tomorrow, almost spot on. We'll be at 6 here in the city, right around the Golden Horseshoe for the most part, between about 5 and 6 degrees, and almost everybody's sitting 2 to 3 degrees above seasonal. Now, we've been watching a little snow already making its way through northern Ontario. They're well into the wintry season, although we're still technically in the fall. But we were watching for rain to make its way through first for us here in southern Ontario, in the GTA, and throughout the city of Toronto. Heavier tonight as we get past about 10 p.m. right through to the early morning hours tomorrow. So again, if you work shift work, maybe you're changing when you're getting off, it is going to be a little bit soggy overnight, so keep that in mind. It will impact your drive, but the good news is for the bulk of people who work the traditional 9 to 5, they're looking at a decent commute into work tomorrow or into school. We do still see some spotty showers as we head throughout the afternoon, and then it clears out. But the snow is not far away. We're looking at a few bands about an hour or so north of us, and then we'll see it kind of trickle its way towards us through the end of the week. We get into our Wednesday morning, lots of sunshine out there, a few light clouds, but overall it's not a bad way to mark things. But after Wednesday, we see a shift in temperatures. It gets significantly cooler, and this is where the chance of light flurries are going to make their way through. Will you need the shovel? Probably not, but it is that first kind of hint of snow that we're looking at where you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. We're kind of tiptoeing into that Christmas season. Temperature-wise, again, fairly seasonal or within the range through your Tuesday and Wednesday. Into Thursday, as temperatures drop, that rain or snow mix is quite low, but likely into the end of the day, and that's how we carry into our Friday. Just 2 degrees as we round out the work and school week, and we're watching for a very light flurry. Again, will it likely impact your commute? No. If you're still waiting to put winter tires on, this is your kind of reminder to get it done sooner rather than later. We're still watching for the chance of flurries right throughout the weekend, so we'll see some peaks of sun, but it gets cold and it stays cold right throughout the weekend and in towards the beginning of next week. We are kind of getting into that time of year where as the precipitation falls, it's less likely to fall as rain and more likely to fall as a rain-snow mix or flurries. So as we head throughout the end of the week, keep in mind that we are transitioning to a more wintry forecast. Michelle, Nathan, I'll send things back to you.
Thank you, Jess. Well, as we enter week 2 of our Toy Mountain campaign, we want to highlight some of the children who have taken on the challenge to build a mountain of toys.
CTV's Andrea Case and our partners, the Salvation Army and the Toronto area Ford dealers, made their way to Etobicoke, and students at St. Ambrose Catholic School are well on their way to helping give a child a toy this Christmas.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Darcy. How are you? You get on this side. Erin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So here we are at one of the Toronto area Ford dealers. Tell us about this beautiful vehicle here.
Well, this year, the Toronto area Ford dealers were giving away a Maverick pickup truck. For those that come and donate a toy at one of our dealerships, you get to enter a ballot, and who knows, you might go home with this vehicle.
Wow. Okay, well, that's fantastic news. Erin, one of the things that's new this year, we're getting the kids involved in building a toy mountain.
Yes, the School Toy Drive program is that new program this year, and we're actually headed out into schools across the GTA. It is sponsored by the Toronto area Ford dealers. We really saw last year that students and youth were coming out to our hits as part of the campaign and donating toys from events that they had hosted in their schools. So we wanted to pay a special visit to them this year, get out into the schools, into the classrooms, and see and champion them bringing toys into the school and building that toy mountain. So we're really excited.
Right now, I want to take this vehicle for a ride. What do you say? Do you want to go for a ride?
I think we should go to the next school.
Let's go to school. You ready?
Sounds good.
Let's go. Who's driving?
I'm driving.
Darn. Hi, everybody. Hi. Woo! Here we are. We made it. We're at St. Ambrose Catholic School. And who do we have here?
The Dream Team.
The Dream Team. Okay, who's in charge of the Dream Team?
Mr.
Come on over. Mr. Roque, which grade do you teach?
I teach the 5th grade.
And how are the kids in the 5th grade?
My kids are fantastic.
Oh, you can't say anything else.
No,
of course,
amazing.
they are amazing.
They are the best.
What makes them so great?
Just the way they look at the world with their innovative ideas and their fresh young minds. And I'm really spoiled this year to have such a wonderful class.
Wow. Okay, so we're here, of course, with Aaron and Darcy. We just drove over from the dealership. Aaron, tell us what the kids are doing here.
Yeah, so they are building a toy mountain. The dream team behind me here, building a toy mountain in their school, collecting new unwrapped toys to give to over 70,000 children across the GTA.
Your name is?
Megan.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm great.
And why did you want to take part in this program?
It's great to charity work. It's a fun program. Mr. Roque's a great leader. It's the best. It's great to be a part of this kind of thing.
Okay, do you celebrate Christmas?
Yes.
What's your best Christmas memory or your favorite toy you ever received?
I got a sled one year that you can control and it has the brakes and stuff. That was the best Christmas gift I ever got.
Did you use the brakes?
No.
It's kind of like me in driving. Sometimes I don't use the brakes. Okay, who else wants to talk? Okay, what's your name?
Amadeo.
Amadeo. Oh, I just like the musician.
Yeah.
Okay, do you play music?
Yes.
What do you play?
I play the drums.
You play the drums. You're a good drummer?
Yes.
Okay, drumming up some support for Toy Mountain. I'm putting a lot of shadow on you there. So, yeah, drumming up a lot of support for Toy Mountain. Why did you want to take part in this campaign?
Because whenever I go downstairs for Christmas, I get this magical feeling of unwrapping toys, and I want to make sure that other kids who are less fortunate can get that magical feeling on Christmas.
He said it all. Okay, kids, we're going to go inside and see all the toys that you have done. Way to go. Way to go.
Well, thank you for your generosity, everyone. And by the way, if you want to donate to Toy Mountain, drop off a new unwrapped toy at participating malls, one of the 35 Toronto area Ford dealers, or visit toymountain.ca and click Toronto to find a drop-off location near you.
Also tonight, meeting accessibility standards across the province. How close are we to reaching the goal, and what changes could easily be made? Health is next. It was a celebration with a call for action at Queen's Park.
It came as advocates for Ontarians with disabilities marked a big milestone. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
Lawyer David Lepofsky, who is blind, has spent the past 30 years with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or AODA, Alliance.
It was Canada's first comprehensive, enforceable accessibility law, and it required the Ontario government to lead the province to become accessible to people with disabilities by January 1st, 2025.
There has been progress, like speaker announcements of stops on the transit system.
The next station is Wellesley.
But as 2025 looms,
we come here with a mixture of pride and anger. Anger because 4 weeks from now, when January 1st, 2025 arrives, Ontario will not be accessible to Ontarians with Disabilities Act as the AODA had promised. Not even close.
The Alliance says improvements have proceeded at a glacial pace, and some changes could be made easily and at little cost if the political will was there.
Not rocket science to put Braille room numbers up. United States, it's a very common practice.
Nora Green spoke of the red tape involved in just finding out what resources are available for students with disabilities.
These barriers impede them from fully benefiting from publicly funded education. I know this from decades as a special education teacher and from my children's experiences with disabilities.
More concerns about health care, employment, long-term care, and more were aired at public hearings organized by the AODA Alliance.
It's already 27% of the population as reported in 2003, making disabled people the largest minority group in Canada.
It said every great accomplishment is, at first, impossible. Just watch us.
Lepofsky says the Disabilities Act won't disappear on January 1st, and neither will they. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Drake is set to hit the stage in Australia early next year.
Who hating on numbers untouchable, they got the data wrong. This is the moment I know they've been praying on.
The rapper announcing the Anita Max Win Tour during a live stream last night. It's set to begin on February 9th, the same day as rival Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance. Drake says the tour will include stops in Melbourne, Sydney, and the Gold Coast and will continue into March. It's unclear when tickets go on sale.
Windsor Castle is among the royal residences people can tour at Christmas this year. The Royals are opening up several residences for public viewing over the holidays. At Windsor Castle, there's a 6-meter-high fir tree. Guests will be able to see some apartments as well as the grounds. And there's even decorations in the 100-year-old dollhouse that once belonged to Queen Mary. Other tours include Sandringham Estate, Kensington Palace, and the Tower of London. Meanwhile, there's a holiday offering attracting visitors on this side of the Atlantic.
It is beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Stonington, Connecticut. Have a look at this. It's not your traditional Yuletide tree, but it sure is beautiful. It's made up of about 460 lobster traps, a similar number of buoys, which are hand-painted by artists, some created by children. In the off-season, the traps are stored and recycled. And apparently, at least 9 marriage proposals have taken place at this annual display since its inception 4 years ago.
After the break, a family memory to pass along for generations. The Nylander brothers play an NHL game together for the very first time.
Canadian stocks ended today just down from Friday's record high. Andrew Bellabean in Bloomberg has the details in business.
Hello there. Toronto's index of bank shares today was near its highest since 2022, although the composite index slipped as energy and materials fell. Shares in Royal Bank of Canada, CIBC, and National Bank all were near record highs, and Scotia and BMO traded near the highest since 2022. Bank of America calculates that profits per share in the Canadian industry increased 7% in the latest quarter. Stocks rose in the United States. Traders welcomed President-elect Donald Trump's pick of hedge fund manager Scott Bessent for Treasury Secretary. Bessent, who runs macro hedge fund Keysquare Group, is seen as advocating caution on trade tariffs. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was at 71.52 US cents, down a fraction. West Texas Intermediate oil changed hands at $68.94, down $2.30. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $58.48, up $1.22. And the TSX Composite ended at 25,410.35, down just under 34 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
U.S. Thanksgiving is arriving a little later this year, which means Canadians waiting for Black Friday deals will have less time to complete their shopping before Christmas. Retail experts say the 5 fewer shopping days will shift how retailers advertise around the season. Experts expect stores will focus on trying to get people to buy their gifts earlier. A Leger survey conducted on behalf of the Retail Council of Canada found 25% of respondents say they would not start holiday shopping until Black Friday or later.
It was a family affair for the Maple Leafs when they hit the ice against Utah last night.
The 20-year-old, now loose puck in front. William Nylander back across to Alex. That just missed.
The Nylander brothers out here together. There it is.
And now a steal by William Nylander. Bust again. William Nylander scored!
William Nylander scored the eventual game-winning goal for the Buds. He hit the ice alongside his younger brother, Alex, for the first time with their father and one of their sisters in the crowd. Maple Leafs recently signed Alex to a 1-year deal.
Really special feeling to be here on this team and my brother here, so it's something I'll remember forever.
Obviously, that was a lot of fun. I mean, if he stays up, it'd be nice to get some more together.
The victory over Utah was the Leafs' 4th straight win. They will go for 5 in a row Wednesday when they take on the Florida Panthers. And just ahead, honoring a milestone moment in professional sports, a sculpture crafted in recognition of the women of the PWHL who blazed a trail for the next generation of athletes.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight, and a special What's Up to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Tonight, hockey players go toe-to-toe against an unexpected opponent.
Walking pre-game to get to the rink because there's way too much traffic.
The slow trek through Toronto to make it in time for game time. Later on CTV National News.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Tomorrow at 6, with a cold winter set to touch down in Toronto, Pearson's game plan to clear the runways and keep travel plans on time and ready for takeoff. Tomorrow on CTV News at 6.
This is amazing.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. Your name is?
Patricia.
And you are the
principal of St. Ambrose.
So you're the boss of all of these kids here and teachers.
Well, we work together.
Oh, good answer.
Yes.
Good answer. Okay, so tell me about this mountain of toys. Why did the school decide to take part in this program?
We were chosen, and we're very, very lucky that we were able to participate, and we're giving back to many, many families that are needy. We're very lucky that St. Ambrose School is a community that is giving and loving and charitable in many, many ways. So as soon as we put out the call, this is what we got within a couple of days.
Darcy, you've been involved in Toy Mountain for how many years now?
This is our 15th year that we've been involved in this campaign. It's a wonderful campaign. Every year gets better and better. And this program, being the first year we've done this with the schools, is just outstanding. And this is our first school, and we see what they've done here. All these kids have done a great job of bringing toys in to help Toy Mountain.
Wow. Well, I think they've really made it really fantastic. I guess kind of thrown down the gauntlet, I guess, for other schools. This has been just a few days, and this is what they've collected. So that has been fantastic. Okay, who really wants to be on television? Who didn't I speak to yet? Oh my goodness. Who? Come on over. I'm breaking hearts here. Okay, your name is?
Amelia.
Amelia, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
And did you collect any toys?
I did, yes.
And why did you want to take part in the program?
Well, giving toys is a big thing, and students, some kids, it's kind of sad to think about that some kids, they don't get to have that experience. And personally, for me, I'm like really big on Christmas, and I love celebrating that, and like giving presents is on my like top tier list, right? And it's like sad to think that other kids won't be able to do that.
What a wonderful way to kick off this campaign. Those students were so inspiring and so exciting to see.
Wow, what do you think, Darcy?
Well, I was impressed. I just couldn't believe how many toys they collected when we got inside the school. The kids are so well spoken about the campaign and about helping out, and it's just a fantastic way to start off this year's campaign.
And if you want to donate to Toy Mountain, drop off a new unwrapped toy at participating malls, one of the 35 Toronto area Ford dealers, or visit toymountain.ca and click Toronto to find a drop-off location near you.
Finally tonight, we are just days away from Toronto's Professional Hockey League's home opener. The Scepters take to the ice this Saturday.
And tonight, there's a new sculpture celebrating the league's pioneering players. CTV's Raheem Ladani has the details.
Among the hundreds of storefronts inside Toronto's Eaton Centre, there's a new display catching everyone's attention. Standing 4 feet tall and 6 feet wide, this oversized hockey helmet sculpture is called the Inaugural Six, and Brianne Douglas is the Canadian artist.
This piece was a lot of hard work to make. And I think that also is reflective with the PWHL and where they have come to today. It was a lot of hard work to get here, and I want the art to reflect that story.
Douglas collaborated with the Professional Women's Hockey League to create this striking, larger-than-life helmet. The sticks were gathered from each of the 6 teams and are the very ones used during the PWHL's first season.
Each stick actually has a player's name on the side of it. So every time I laid down a stick, it was like laying down a memory or a future of one of these players that are in the league. And I just think that makes it maybe one of the most special pieces I've ever made.
The PWHL is looking to build on its first season success. The league set 6 attendance records thanks to the high quality of play, while the athletes have quickly become household names at the same time paving the way for future generations.
There's so much attention around our game, and now people are finding it normal. They're used to it. It's not just a moment anymore. It's going to be a long-term thing.
This is going to create a lot of attention. You know, there are going to be hockey people, sports people, people who are just wondering what that is, right? And I think that that's pretty special.
As their legacy continues to build, the sculpture is cemented and will be on display until Thursday, leading up to puck drop of the second season on November 30th. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
Just a great use of those sticks. What a sculpture. It looks amazing.
It's a beautiful piece, and I can't help but think years down the line, we're going to think back to, you know, we were there when the league started, and it's just impressive. I can't wait to take my girls to a Scepters game.
I'm so excited to go. I feel like it's a long overdue, and it is really nice to have something in the city that's great for people to enjoy for everybody, a family affair. And we're getting into the time of year where you can play hockey inside and outside. It is a little mild still, but we are seeing some outdoor rinks starting to pop up. A little unsettled tonight as we head into the evening, so keep that in mind. It will likely impact your drive if you're going out later on tonight. As we make our way in towards the GTA and kind of right across southern Ontario, it is relatively mild, all things considered, and we're not changing too much temperature-wise as we head into this evening. We are holding on to what is going to be fairly seasonal weather today, tomorrow, into Wednesday, and then things start to shift just a little. It gets a little cool out there. We start to see the chance of some flurries, but looking ahead to Saturday, if you're heading out, not a bad forecast to be inside watching some hockey.
Sounds fun. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sejadina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching. Have a great night.